Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I've been saying kind of for a while now that I was looking for people to mentor and, maybe make videos about that in order to kind of help everyone else see the process of what goes into maybe getting some of your first entry level roles. Naturally, of course, none of you assholes reached out to me except for one guy, Amir, who I'm very glad to be able to introduce to you all in this video and do kind of an introductory mentoring session. In the future, I'm hoping to meet with him once a week and then kind of go through the process of trying to help him get entry level roles since he's currently a master's student. And yeah, overall, I'm hoping that kind of the video chats between the two of us will help you guys in kind of doing similar steps throughout your own process and ultimately help you guys to work on getting your first entry level position. So without further ado, let me introduce Amir and yeah, enjoy. Okay, so for everyone who's watching, this is Amir. Really nice to meet you, Amir. We had a little phone call before this. We get introduced, but I think something that's going to happen a lot in interviews and things along those lines is that people are kind of going to ask you to give a 2-minute summary of yourself, your kind of coding background, and that's something that's really common in interviews, just to get to know who you are. So I think it'll help all of us probably if you do the same thing here, and then that way we can kind of get a sense of your experience so far and kind of what your interests are.
All right, perfect. My name is Amr. That's how you pronounce my name. So
I appreciate that. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, I graduated from like telecommunications and networking engineering.
Hmm.
I'm originally from Egypt, and I just moved to the US to pursue my master's degree in computer science. And I have 1 year of like 1.5 years of professional experience using mainly backend engineering, using Node and Java Spring Boot.
Cool. Awesome. I appreciate that. That was a really great explanation. So, okay, generally speaking, you are, like you said, a master's student. So you're mainly looking for new grad roles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Because that is actually something I can help out. If you were looking for senior level roles, I would be useless. So this is great. Okay. And it's also awesome that you are, I feel like, on a pretty typical track that a lot of software engineers in the US want to take, which is, they're international students who come to the US kind of for the tech industry on
Yeah.
possibly a visa or a student visa. And then, they go from there kind of looking for their first entry level position. So
Yeah.
you mentioned to me over the phone call, but I'd appreciate it if you could kind of reiterate right now what you're looking for a full-time position, but kind of what type of applications you've sent out already.
All right. So I've applied on multiple, like a lot of the big tech companies.
Sure.
I've sent my like resume out, but just on their online careers page.
Hmm.
And I'm basically just want to get into like software development here in the US.
Right.
Just
Any specific type for now, or just kind of generalist, back end, front end?
yeah, like preferably backend.
Hmm. Cool.
But yeah.
Do you have any sort of record of which companies you've applied to, or like a number of ways, or like any sort of sheet of which you've applied to?
Like I can like I
And
haven't
yeah,
track,
if
but like in my head, I can
yeah,
consider
that
like
I think one piece of advice from me to you personally is it helps to just write it down so that you can get a sense of when you applied, because that way, if you haven't heard back for like a few weeks, typically, your resume just got screened out. And if that happens, don't be discouraged. I mean, it happens to everyone.
yeah,
My resume gets screened out probably 90% of the time too, and the only thing you can really do to help with that is try and get your resume improved a little bit by beefing it up, but also more importantly, just kind of get referrals, and
yeah.
that's kind of the better way of getting it done. So okay, let me think about this a little bit more. When you say you've applied to the big tech companies, um, basically just the ones that aren't on hiring freeze right now.
Yeah, so like I like obviously like I don't know like what companies are actually at which stage
Right.
because a lot of that is not really public. Like you see, for example, Google laying off X amount of employees, Amazon the same, but
Yeah.
then again, you see like 1,000 positions on their career website. So you don't really, if you're not, you have some insights.
Yeah.
I don't, you're not really, you're never sure what stage are the companies in.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've applied to like most of them, honestly. Snowflake, Stripe, the FANG
Cool.
companies, Microsoft. Yeah.
Awesome. How's that been going so far in terms of hearing back from them? Have you heard back from any for interviews, or is it mostly been resume screens so far?
The resume screens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, that makes sense. And I mean, again, it's totally expected, especially I think it's hard when, you don't have like a huge name already on your resume in the
Yeah.
US just because, that's kind of the only way that they can tell it personally. So, I think probably in maybe a subsequent session, perhaps next week, we should go through your resume and work on that a little bit. But this,
Yeah,
at
sure.
least for me, is mostly kind of an introductory session to get to know, obviously you and where you're at right now, in terms of kind of the strength of your application and also how prepared you are for interviews if they're to come around. So, with that being said, I guess, on my channel, I have a ton of systems design stuff, but that's not
Yeah.
really too useful for being a new grad. I think there are a couple companies that do look into that a little bit, but for the most part, your time is probably best spent lead coding. So do you lead code at all, or do you practice that a
Yeah.
little bit?
I'm
And
currently following like I'm reading a book.
mhm.
It's called it's like Sciana. Do you know it? The Algorithm Design Manual. I got
Mm,
referred to that by
maybe
like I
I've
said,
heard of it.
yeah.
So in addition to reading that, do you ever do any of like the practice
Yeah, yeah,
problems
yeah, yeah.
online?
I
Okay,
practice
sweet.
decode. Like
Cool.
I set aside like a couple of hours a day.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
do you feel like decently confident with those? Have you ever done mock interviews or anything to try and get a sense of how you do with those under pressure?
Yeah, I've done a couple of mock interviews.
Hmm.
One question was actually pretty annoying. It
I'm
was like
sure.
a mix between like BFS and BFS, like
Hmm.
using both traversals.
Okay.
But yeah, it was yeah. I guess I like the feedback that I got was pretty nice. Like this, it's like one of them was not a friend, like a connection that I have.
Sure.
He's yeah senior engineer at Facebook, and yeah, it was pretty helpful.
That's awesome. That's really encouraging to hear as well. And yeah, look, like, of course no one can be perfect with those. Like I
Yeah,
still fail a lot of lead code interviews, but it sounds like you're off to a really, really good start with that. And, well, I'll also do the same and, we can work on that to make sure everything's being explained properly. But it sounds like, at least to me so far, you're pretty comfortable with the lead code style interviews. I see you're doing well in your master's program. You're learning a lot. So it sounds like the main thing is just getting your resume in front of the right people and
exactly.
actually getting the interviews. And this
Yeah,
is a spot I think that a lot of students are in for the first time because once you have that first job, it's really easy to get subsequent ones in
exactly.
terms of, but it's hard to get the first one and you have to be, really tenacious and kind of scrappy about the way that you do that.
Yeah,
Um, do you ever go about asking people for referrals when you apply to companies?
yeah. I go around like getting look around on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
see if like any recruiters in the area, any of my connections already,
Have you
friends, family.
do you ever
Yeah,
use Blind at all?
blind?
Yeah. Do you know what that app is?
No.
So Blind is an app for software engineers where it's kind of just like a forum.
Yeah,
However, one really nice part about it is that a lot of the posts are pretty, honestly, a lot of these posts are pretty evil. There are people on there saying, annoying and stuff that'll get you
I've heard you talk
self-conscious.
about it in your YouTube channel, but I
Yeah.
will check them out. Yeah.
So the thing is, it's one of those apps that you're better off not reading it too consistently because it'll make you feel shitty about yourself. But at the same time, it's really good for getting referrals. So personally, that's how I got the referral that I used to get my Google offer. I got a Facebook offer doing that, and so it really helps because even though I went to like a pretty notable school in the country,
Yeah.
a lot of these companies would turn me down because I didn't have a referral with my application. So I would say, and this is increasingly true when you don't have a ton of experience on your resume, that is probably the most crucial way to set apart your application and make sure that you're getting interviews. And I originally kind of underestimated this when I was applying for internships,
Yeah.
as a freshman, as a sophomore in college. And by the time I realized that I could be doing this as a senior, it completely changed which companies were giving me interviews, even though it's not like I was any smarter than I was before.
Yeah.
So I would definitely look into downloading that app. And
Yeah. Sure.
I'm not exactly sure if it'll let you make posts, but what I'll do is say this much, which is that if they don't let you make posts, reach out to me and I'll make one on your behalf to kind of ask people if they'll give referrals. And then, you can kind of start to apply to companies that way. Another thing is, have you tried to apply to any, I guess, companies through your school website? Have you used Handshake before? Do you know what that
Yeah,
is?
yeah,
Have you tried that at all?
because a lot of the yeah, I've tried that, but I haven't really gotten. But I've only opened it recently
Hmm.
because a lot of the job posts are for like
Okay.
within the next few months. They want to like fill the position within the next few months, and I don't want to go through the whole process. And my visa doesn't allow me to work until I graduate, so
I see.
it's pointless. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. I would say Handshake is one of those things where a lot of it is kind of garbage. However, especially when you're just starting out, it gives you the possibility of kind of getting really lucky if you apply to enough places. That was honestly how
yeah,
I got my first internship, was through Handshake at like a really no-name company, but it gave me a little bit of experience that allowed me to talk about that more so in the future. So I think, okay, here's what I would say. So you said you've already applied to kind of most of the big tech companies, right? So
yeah.
I'm trying to think how long it would be before you might be able to apply to them again. But I suppose it couldn't hurt if you try with a resume, or try with a different, or try with a referral, or try with a different email or something. Um, so what I think the next steps are probably this, because I don't want to make each call too much just to make everything digestible for everyone.
Yeah.
But I think so. If we meet next week, do you think you could try to find yourself maybe between 10 and 20 referrals in a week? And it's actually pretty easy to do. All you do is go on Blind. You say to yourself, hey, I'm a student who's doing a master's program. I have some experience, working on Spring in the back end. I'm looking for my first entry level role. I'm open to literally any company that will hire, people with international visas. If you guys are hiring, please let me know. I find that Blind is really effective because, on LinkedIn, there's kind of a lot of spam. It's hard to get that
Yeah,
poster out there. But people on Blind are actually pretty eager to refer you because they get those referral bonuses. And
yeah,
you can talk to them a little bit, talk about your resume, and I'll actually do the same thing on your behalf and post on Blind, saying that I have a peer who I'm trying to help out, and look for positions. And then once we kind of get that batch of referrals, then we can reapply, look at your resume, and I think that'll be a really good topic for kind of next week, where
yeah,
once
definitely.
we decide where to apply, we kind of curate your resume.
All right.
Okay.
So
Um, I think I'll leave it to that, just since you did a really great job introducing yourself. The one thing I would maybe say that could help a lot is, you mentioned kind of what you've worked on technology wise, and you mentioned your background.
yeah,
The one thing I think could help as well is if you have 10 to 15 seconds to talk about one of your main projects at one of those companies. It kind of gives an idea of, hey, not only did I just write the occasional endpoint here or there, but I also worked on this essential functionality that did XYZ.
yeah, that
So
works.
that would just be
Yeah,
my small piece of advice for kind of the introductory portion of an interview.
yeah, that's
But yeah, I think so far it sounds like you're doing like everything right, and it's just really hard at this stage of the process. And
right.
yeah,
Yeah, obviously, like coming here, I knew beforehand that getting the first position is always going to be the hardest.
yeah,
Like from there, it gets a bit easier,
yeah.
especially as an international. But yeah, it's not impossible.
No,
And
absolutely not.
yeah,
And
because yeah,
I just want to say again, I completely really appreciate your initiative. Thanks for reaching out, and
no, thank
you're
you.
killing it already. So yeah, let's stay in contact. We'll talk next week.
Sure.
And dude, good luck to you. Let's get some referrals and try this again, because it really does make a huge difference when you
Yeah,
can.
definitely. That's what
Okay.
I'm like, because we talked about that, and that's what I've been trying to do for the
Mhm.
past like couple
Yeah,
of
it's good
years.
on Blind because you can basically just say refer me to anywhere. Whereas LinkedIn, it's really hard to scale that out, right? It's a lot of
Yeah,
effort trying to reach out to recruiters. A lot of the times recruiters won't even respond to you because you can't actually instantly connect with them.
yeah,
I find that just literally saying, "Hey, I'll take referrals. I'm getting good grades in this program. I'm going to be able to pass interviews, and just believe in me." It really goes far, and people do like to help out. So
yeah,
I'll make that post on your behalf as well. I'll try and
sure.
continue to look, but let's say,
Yeah.
if we can get 10 referrals for next week, that would be really big.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Good.
Sounds good. All right. Have a great night,
You
Amir.
too.
It's really nice speaking to you, and I look forward to it.
All right.
All right.
Let's See you next week.
Sounds
Bye bye.
good. Bye.